A motorcycle chase, a helicopter chase, an underground tunnel chase, the end of the Flag Smashers, the rise of the new Captain America, redemption for Bucky, and perhaps U.S. Agent, and acknowledgement for Isaiah Bradley. So much jam packed into this series finale of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we have so much to dive in and discuss. Welcome, everyone, to the MCU Pod, a companion podcast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your host, Grant Davis, and Mike is currently being held captive over on the raft. So he can't join me this week, but it's okay. It's going to be okay because I don't have to do it alone. I'm still joined by two friends of the show. We're joined once again by comics and TV expert Randy Lander of the TV Dudes and Rogues Gallery Roguecast.
Hello, Avengers Assemble.
Randy, you know what? I realized that I've been derelict in my duties. Is that the right word? Derelict? I think so.
It's good. Yeah, it's, derelict in your duties. Sure.
Because I haven't been promoting you guys. I bring you guys on as guests, but then I don't actually give you an opportunity to talk about what it is you do, what you talk about. And one of those things is the TV Dudes. Tell us about your stuff.
So, TV Dudes is a TV podcast that I started with you and Gregory J. and Money Smith about, it's like at least 10 years ago. We've been doing it for a while. And I think it's 10 years. Maybe it's only 5. I don't know. It's a long time. We did this for a long time. And it's a weekly podcast. I currently do it with Les Weiler and Nick Tice. And we cover basically stuff from all the various streaming networks. And
Kyle isn't on it anymore.
Kyle is taking a hiatus while he works on his house. He got winter stormed out, so he's like doing some stuff for that. But he will be back.
Older.
So I do that weekly, and we talk about what we're watching and all that kind of thing.
I jumped the gun. I changed the graphics.
And then the Roguecast is the official podcast of my store, Rogues Gallery Comics and Games, in Round Rock, Texas. And we do that also mostly weekly, although sometimes things don't work out that way. But we cover comics for the week, and then we usually talk about trailers for geek related movies and that kind of thing, and what we might be watching and listening to, that kind of thing.
I love seeing Dr. Venture and Brock Sampson over here.
That's art by our good buddy Nate Bliss, who also did all the art for our Beach Cop Detectives podcast.
It's fantastic. Speaking of artists, we are also joined again by our good buddy and indie comics darling, Will Cardini. Will.
Hey, everybody.
What's happening, man? You know it. You know I got graphics for you too. I got graphics for you to promote your stuff. So tell us about what you do, man.
I make psychedelic sci-fi comics. I write and draw them. This is a page from my newest thing I'm working on called A Reluctant Oracle. Hoping to have an issue out later this year.
Yes, got this guy.
My first graphic novel, Vortex, came out in 2014, and I still got copies on my website if you want to order one. It's another psychedelic sci-fi wizard adventure.
Badass. And you, what I love, Mark, is Will, sorry, is that you have created this universe called the Hyperverse, and like all of your different comics, they all integrate and build off of this universe that you constructed, not unlike a Marvel Cinematic Universe. And talk about this too.
Tales from the Hyperverse is a collection of short comics that all take place in the titular Hyperverse realm, where you never know what's going to happen. You might get eaten by a monster while you're just trying to do your job, or you might get stomped by a witch spell. It's a dangerous place, and I just kind of like exploring that. And as Grant alluded to, all my comics take place in the same universe, and there are recurring characters like the Mizard and the Floating Crystal Witch on the cover of that one. It's
very drug induced.
No comment. No comment.
Folks, we are happy to have you guys back here. Apologies that we were not here last week. Sometimes life gets in the way, and we were unfortunately unable to do our live show discussing episode 5. but that's okay. We're back.
Does that mean we can talk about 5 and 6 this week? Because
We can
that's
talk
it.
about-
Because 5 was great, and I really would love to talk about some of it.
I think it would be fair for us to talk a little bit on episode 5 as well, but
Nice.
mainly we're going to be talking about episode 6. We're going to be talking about the conclusion of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. And every week, I want to remind you guys that we do a little live broadcast. I would say every week, but we weren't here last week, were we? We do a live broadcast, though, over on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/MCU Pod, you can go ahead and subscribe to us. Hit that subscribe button. You can hit the notification buttons as well, and you know when we go live. Love to have you join us. We're going to be doing much more in the MCU because the MCU is ever expanding, it seems. Even just today they announced Captain America 4 is coming out, so obviously plenty of material for us to be discussing week to week, even if it's not each episode of television. So we'd love to have you guys join us. And before we go ahead and dive into discussing that, I'm going to take another couple minutes here to just briefly talk about other ways you can support us. Like I said, you can find us over at mcupod.com. That's where you can find all the places that we put out this, both in video and in audio. If you guys want to go ahead and subscribe to our audio podcast as well on whatever podcasting platform you listen to, you can do so, and we would appreciate that. If you have a second, go ahead and rate and review us. Go to Apple Podcasts and give us that little 5-star and write a little review. It does help us, and we appreciate everyone that's already put in the work to do such a thing. You can also subscribe to us over at patreon.com. I have a graphic for this one too. Boom. Patreon.com/MCU Pod. There you can make a monthly pledge of just $2, $5, or $10. Join the Defenders, Revengers, or Avengers accordingly. And I just want to say thank you guys. I mean, it's humbling to see the support that we've gotten on there already. And I'm going to try and do more exclusive podcast material for you guys just to show our thanks for supporting this little venture that we're doing here. I think the last thing I want to note is that since we are doing this live over on YouTube, you can comment. You can give us your thoughts, and people are already commenting over here. We got people talking about scrolls, and we're talking about the accursed life, and just saying hi to each other on the chat. It's a little family we're cultivating here, and we'd love to have you guys come join us over in the chat. It's a lot of fun. And we're also getting people giving us their snap judgments already. I'm already seeing those over on the side, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. Let's go ahead and jump in. This week's episode, the final episode, episode 6 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is called One World, One People, written by Malcolm Spellman and Joseph Sawyer, and directed by Kerry Skoglund, who directed the entire series and did a fantastic job, I think. The synopsis, according to IMDb, is Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, and Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, team up on a global adventure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Keeping it big. Like, that's just great. Great job. We like to start our episodes with a little segment called Snap Judgments. Snap Judgments are where we can give our just quick first impressions on the episode. And this week, it's going to be a little bit richer than just that. We're going to ask for your snap judgments on the episode. You can talk a little bit about what you thought about episode 5, since we didn't really cover that. And then you can also, well, I was going to say we could roll in the entire season as a whole, but let's hold off on that. I think we'll hold off on that. Let's just keep it to episode 5 and episode 6. And we're going to start with you, Will.
All right. Well, I've got to say, episode 5 and episode 6 were really good. I really appreciated how they brought everything in and tied up all the loose ends and kind of set up whatever's going to happen next. I didn't know about Captain America 4. I was thinking, another season. And this just made me like really excited to see them explore the new the new Captain America and his costume, which is totally badass and definitely well worth the build up to it in episode 5. I thought they did that really well. And there were just some really iconic moments like this one, and then when he's flying in with Carly's body and he just lands, with the wings. I mean, it almost looked like something out of a painting of an angel. It was amazing. And I just really love moments like that where the cinematography and the superhero iconography creates this really epic picture. And then, of course, his speech after that was amazing. And the line about the insane God and the misguided teenager, I mean, that was just so good.
Yeah. Randy, what are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting. I've seen some controversy on this one online. I've got friends who really didn't like this episode. I can see in our comments that some folks were real down on this episode. I thought episode 5, I think, was as strong as the series got. I think it was the best episode of the series as a whole. And then as a result, I think 6 had to carry the weight of the entire series and bring things for landing. And I thought I'd give it like an 8.5. Like, it's good. It's a solid ending. I think there's a couple missteps. There's a couple things I wish they'd done differently. And I do feel like it's fair to say, yeah, there's some stuff that was a little bit rushed. But where it works, it really works. Cap having Falcon in that costume, doing some cool aerial stuff, using the shield. I thought that was done really well. I thought it was a beautiful translation of a costume that in the comics took me a little while to warm up to, but because I was sort of used to it and expecting it, I loved seeing it. I like yelled out loud when I actually saw it that they'd done it. I was very happy that they put that on screen. I thought they did a good job translating it. And then I thought they gave Sam a good outro without compromising all the moral complexities of this. I have some gripes, which we'll get into, but overall, I loved this. It also, like, Cap and the Falcon Cap in particular, some of my favorite comics. So they translate it pretty beautifully, and I'm super psyched to see Captain America 4.
Yeah, I think I'm a little mixed. I thought that episode 5 was very powerful. It was a fantastic episode. One that was a little less action packed than a lot of the other ones, but more reflective. And I thought that especially the scenes of just like him working on the boat and like, getting back in touch with like community and all of that, and like having Bucky there like helping him, and like just this kind of family dynamic, it felt very nourishing to the soul for me.
Yeah.
There was some really touching moments both in that episode and this one, and I'm surprised to say, because Randy, you know this about me, I'm a robot.
You are.
I cried.
What?
I cried at moments in both these episodes. And
wait, have you been replaced by a Skrull just like people think Sharon Carter was?
That's what's going on. But it just like, there's certain things in this that like when they could hit some heavy moments, I thought that they were doing a good job with it, and it was like pretty profound. That said, like I do agree, like there's certain dynamics of this like that feel like the Marvel formula just has to have a big beat 'em up bad guys like moments for that just are ongoing, even though it doesn't make any sense for Bucky, who is the world-renowned trained assassin, to have to exchange jabs with a low-level nobody for like 5 minutes of the episode. I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Bucky goes, punches that dude once, he's out, moves on to the next guy. Bucky knows how to just annihilate people, and yet they dumb down his abilities. I mean, and then like seeing how much time was like dedicated to Batroc and Sam fighting him when people are flying off in helicopters. I'm like, clearly you don't need to be wasting your time on this guy. Leave him in the boat and jump out and fly away.
You leave Batroc alone. He showed great courage.
I just can't believe he brought the chair against the shield. I was like, Cap versus Shield in my notes. Like, that doesn't. I mean, chair versus Shield. That makes no sense.
Cap versus Shield does make sense.
yes, it does.
Yeah,
it was Batroc with the steel chair.
I agree, though. I think it tied up a lot of moments near the end there in a nice way for the most part. There were some things that I felt a little uncomfortable with, like how they just kind of gave a little dedication wing to Isaiah Bradley, but it still kind of failed to reflect on the larger issue of like his exploitation that was like extremely like messed up, right?
But
So
don't you think that I mean, we didn't get to see the whole placard. I assume that it talked about that in the placard, and also I assume that it basically left for the official story that he died because that's what he wanted.
yeah,
He didn't want to come forward and have they talked about it in 5, like he didn't want to have that fight, and it wouldn't be fair to drag him into that fight. So Sam gave him something, a little recognition that he deserved and maybe wanted, but I think he didn't want to do the hey, yeah, reveal that I'm alive and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like maybe that was the compromise, that to try and give him something without dragging him into the spotlight in a way that he would have felt uncomfortable with.
yeah. I mean, I thought that him seeing the statue and just kind of uh reflecting on it was still a powerful moment, and you know, we'll go into that a bit more in a bit.
Yeah.
I do want to address some of the snap judgments we got from our audience. Nicole Jackson says, I think last week was much better than this week. I mean, episode 5 was probably the best episode, I think, of the
Yep.
season. Will Morris says, Sharon Carter isn't the power broker. Sharon Carter isn't even Sharon Carter.
She's Grant Davis.
She's Mephisto.
She's Mephisto.
Once again, Mephisto. G Miller 47 says, I want more Julia Louis-Dreyfus ASAP.
Same. Definitely.
Rich Murphy says, episode 5 showed the series really hitting a stride. Episode 6 followed by having it keep up the sprint just to fall flat on its face.
Wow, that's harsh.
Interesting. Yeah. Aaron says, enjoyed both 5 and 6, but they copped out making Sharon the power broker too easy a solution.
I want to talk about that a little bit. Do you think, I mean, this is the thing, that this is all shot and they put it out. Do you think this is another one of these cases where they didn't realize people were going to pick that up that quickly? Like that they tipped their hand too much, and like, or do you think it was sort of a like, well, we're not going to change it, even though everybody picked, like they weren't going to change it this late in the game? Like is it that the solution wasn't satisfying, or was it that we all picked it up on it way too early? And so like when they did the big reveal, I think they were all expecting, oh, nobody's going to spot this, but everybody did.
What do you think, Mark? Will?
I don't think if I hadn't been on this podcast and heard Grant say that, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I thought she was like a little shady, but I necessarily wouldn't have gone there. But at the same time, I feel like the power broker wasn't built up in a way to where I'm like, oh my God, she's the power broker. That explains so much. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't make me want to like rewatch the earlier episodes and be like, oh, okay, she's the power broker. Now everything makes sense. It didn't make sense before. And I feel like those kind of reveals are better when something like that happens and it really changes your understanding of the events. But I don't know. It didn't feel like it needed to be so hidden or.
Well, it's
like
the last it's the last scene. It's the post-credit scene, and you want the post-credit, like compare the WandaVision post-credit scene, which had the Skrulls basically recruiting Monica Rambeau and how cool some of that stuff was, and this was sort of a not super cool. Like it's not the coolest thing to go out on. Like the coolest thing to go out would have been probably the U.S. agent thing would have been the good post-credit sequence.
Yeah, although I did want to say something about that. Why was he changing into his new outfit in the same Senate chamber where he got grilled and like demoted? Like that part, I was just like, they're just reusing this set, and it really doesn't make sense for the scene at all.
Maybe Val was like, "Look, I have this room for another hour. Just
come in here and change.
Just come change."
We're trying to make cuts in the budget here. Okay. One more comment here from Nicole Jackson, who says, I really don't think Sam can be an effective Cap without serum. I mean, at one point, Thanos punched the shit out of Cap, and if that happened to Sam, he'd just be dead.
That is fair, but I will point out in the comics, Sam did not have the serum either. So I think that Hawkeye doesn't have any powers, and he hangs with the Avengers, so you can have guys without powers. I think in the movies we're used to the idea of like they've got to be superheroes, they're gonna be superheroes, but there are people who are just trained. Like Black Widow doesn't have any super serum, and she's a badass. Like I think you can make someone who's like trained and skilled and not have to have superpowers.
Yeah, I think that the fact that we got to see he's a true athlete. He has the heart in the right place. He has the courage. You know, he has all the other attributes that you need.
Brains, courage, heart.
Yeah. What's the other one? Toto. You probably know Toto.
Yeah, and Toto. Yeah, he's got
Um,
Toto.
But then, in addition, it seems like what he got dropped off for him was a Wakandan Falcon suit. So it's presumably made of vibranium. It seems to have a bunch of advanced tech. And at a certain point, it's basically like what I was talking about in the very first episode when we did this podcast, where I was like, um, it would make more sense that he gets fused with Iron Man than with Captain America.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. He has like an Iron Man suit, but he has the shield of Captain America, and it's Iron Man and Captain America had a sweet little baby, and it's Sam Wilson.
I do think I wish that they had given us a little more insight into what the Wakanda. I mean, we know Wakandan tech is like way advanced, but it would have been nice if when he had gotten the suit, if we had seen just a little insight of AO talking to or even Shuri, if you could have managed to swung that, talking to Winter Soldier about this suit's got this and this. So we like basically know what the abilities are. Like, yeah, it enhances your strength, and we know it's probably made of vibranium, so it's probably pretty durable and
Where's
gives him
Paul
armor.
Bettany, like talking in his ear to tell him, yes, advance elevating your power boosters or whatever.
I would have liked them to have made explicit. You can definitely read into it that it's Wakandan tech, which means vibranium, which probably means that it presents him with armor. But as someone pointed out in the comments, he's still like lifts a truck. Like he's definitely, there's got to be enhancing him somehow.
You're right. He was holding up that entire truck, which was kind of a badass sequence on this.
It was.
Yeah, when he comes in there, because I'm like, wait, how can he lift that? But like,
Yep.
just the here, I'll pull up this image here. Look at the lighting on that too.
Yeah,
it was
it's
gorgeous.
great.
It was cinematic. It just had all the good feels. So I didn't take any notes this time, so I was just gonna be like, let's just discuss. Let's have a free flowing discussion on this episode, and let's go and start with the beginning. It starts with the evil flag smasher henchman overtaking the GRC, and they're there just kind of killing time, obviously waiting for Falcon to show up, because him showing up, I guess, is crucial to them being able to take and kidnap people.
Made no sense.
So that is one of my big complaints. They built the Flag Smashers up in the background. And okay, so I don't know if you guys know this. I've seen this talked about. The original plot of this had to do with like a pandemic and vaccines, and they were stealing vaccines. And I think they changed all of that because of the actual real life COVID pandemic. And so some of the rushed writing and that kind of thing can be excused because basically they had to suddenly change a plot that was like the spine of the series was something different. And I think they felt like it was insensitive to do it, which I don't know whether or not I can see the argument for it, but you can definitely see that when you're like, wait a minute, what was their plan exactly? And why was it so bad? Like,
what was that truck full of medicine that they stole? And then I guess they just distribute, like Robin Hood distributing medicine. Okay.
They could have done a much better job of explaining exactly what they wanted and how they're going to accomplish it. Because I feel like they're trying to present it as like a balanced thing of like, oh yeah, what they're doing is wrong.
Takako says they were waiting for Falcon because it was a promise made to Batroc in order for Batroc to help them.
That does make sense.
But what was Batroc doing to help them?
I mean, he's a trained mercenary. Maybe he was just there to give him some logistical support. I don't know.
He had that chair. The chair.
Yeah, he had the chair. Yeah.
He's the man with a chair.
He's the chairman.
Gotta love a good pun.
BORED. Yeah, so I mean, it was a good cinematic moment to have Sam come in his new suit, and I guess that's another thing we should talk about. What do you guys think of the suit?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Will, did you like it as well?
I thought the goggles were a little weird. Like the angle of them when they showed him close up. That part just like, I don't know, something about it. It seemed like they sit on his face kind of weird, but I did like the rest of it just as a design, and it's pretty eye-catching, with the white. I'm not like a huge, red, white, and blue design fan necessarily, but I thought it was pretty good.
I don't like it. It looks like I think it's called bunting. The things like whenever you go to like a parade, bunting that's like hanging down the red, white, and blue stuff. That's what his wings end up looking like. The white is so pristine that I'm just like, you're gonna get stains all over that. It's gonna get dirty. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's impractical, is what you're saying. It's an impractical super suit.
It seems impractical.
Look, I'm just Wakandan cleaning tech is super advanced, and they know how to keep the whites white in their super suits.
It feels almost like it's like sports team, like
yeah.
The Patriots
basketball or Patriots or something.
I get that.
And I thought I was kind of hoping that the overall visual aesthetic might be downplayed a bit more and less cartoony, like hardcore, like juxtaposition of color graphics like that. As we saw the evolution of Captain America's suit, I was hoping it wouldn't be such harsh color play.
See, I think that's why I liked it. This to me felt more like the comic book.
Yeah, pretty Grant. Deal with it.
I think that's the thing. One of the things I've always had some slight gripes with in the MCU, much as I love the MCU, is it was heavily influenced by the Ultimates line, and they militarized all the stuff. And I like that they are a little unafraid here to go just straight up superhero. Like it is very sort of, it looks a little garish because in the real world it looks garish, but it looks like the comic suit, like in a way that I've not seen done really well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people seem to like it more than I do. People are agreeing the goggles are a little weird, but
we never saw it from the back. Is it still America's ass? We don't know. Questions to be answered in Cap 4.
Show us that booty, Sam. But I also just kind of had this expectation, I don't know why, that since it was Wakandan tech, it might not be that, I don't know. It seems like it was bought at Old Navy and it was like really loud. Really America. Like especially since this whole thing was a little bit of this season was a commentary on like the problems of America as well, and like this this kind of rejection of this like extreme nationalism, which I think is a problem. So to see this kind of embracing of that symbolism seemed a little bit off key for recognizing that. I don't know. Am I rambling? Maybe I'm rambling here, but
he's owning it. Like it's like he said to Isaiah at the end. You know, he's saying that he's going to fight for it, and he's going to take those symbols and change what they mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Says it seems odd for Wakandans to make something super American looking.
Maybe there's a color swatch, and he just like there's a little computer in that briefcase, and he do red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
you know, but he could just change it.
It's like Captain Marvel tech. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I also do think this is something that I never made explicit in the shows or the movies I know. In the comics, Cap in the storyline that introduced his Walker and all this kind of stuff, Cap actually talks to the commission that basically removes him from being Cap and says, I don't represent the government. I don't represent what America is. I represent the ideal. I represent what America wants to be. And I think that is what Sam is aiming for. And I think having him say that explicitly would have been nice. I think that would have made a lot of sense. He kind of says it, but like I feel like exactly saying, look, I'm not representing America as it is because we know that America has a lot of problems. I am representing the dream and the possibilities that America is. I'm supposed to be what it stands for iconically. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah. There's this kind of this nice moment at the end of all the punch kick scenes where you have Bucky saying nice job, Cap.
Love that.
He gets the acknowledgement from Steve Rogers' right hand buddy that he acknowledges, yeah, you're the man with the suit now, you're the new Captain America. And
his right-handed man.
Before that, because his left hand doesn't is a
you don't think about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that the scene before that where Sam says I'm Captain America to like the guards as he like enters into the space, I like that's where we first hear it. It's that Sam takes it on, he owns it, and he declares it loud and proud, like, "Hey, I am Captain America, and I'm going to own this, and I'm going to forge a new path forward for what this is and what it means." And I was like, "Oh, I appreciate that. That was cool."
Yeah. I think if they had just done Cap 4 and Sam had showed up in this suit, it would not have had the power that it's going to have, because we saw him at the end of Avengers Endgame. What are you doing?
For anyone listening, I had the pictures of Bucky and Sam, and then just cue one of them that someone drew them kissing on the boat.
Is that rule 43? Is that the rule?
You know what? This is all I wanted from this series.
Just one kiss. Come on, guys.
You're such an adorable couple. You guys are squabbling, and you obviously care for each other. Just a smooch. And sometimes you threw it for me, so I appreciate that.
I think basically all this results in a very rich backstory as they examine what it means to be Cap, especially what it means for a black man to be Cap, and it's gonna give them a lot of weight when they do Captain America 4, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So if we move on to talking about, we touched on it a little bit, but him taking on the him taking on the role of Captain America, but trying to kind of bridge the gap between the Flag Smashers and the GRC. There was the scene where after he defeats them, after he defeats Carly, is that her name?
Yeah.
From the Flag Smashers, he brings her over to turn over her dead body, I guess, to the he talks to them, the press, and to the GRC about what went down. And I guess I want to ask you guys, Will, what did you think of this scene? What did you think of him talking to everyone?
I liked hearing him say it. If I'm like thinking about it later, like, would this realistically change anything? I kind of doubt it, but I still like the stirring speech about, he's basically saying they don't have to make these choices. They could just write a check and like give everyone housing if they wanted to, and from my perspective, like, I feel like that is something that should be said to those in power. Like, these situations, it doesn't have to be this way just because you think it does. And I feel like that's what he's trying to tell them. Think about how it feels to be those refugees, and, try and think about it from their perspective. Like, you can't just move everyone around. And I don't know. I thought it was good, but at the same time, I could definitely see them turning around and be like, whatever, we're still just going to do what we're going to do. And that's not what happened in the show, but that would probably be more realistic.
Right.
Well, I think it was supposed to be the Steve Rogers moment. Steve Rogers is great at giving speeches. You look at Endgame, you look at Winter Soldier when he talks to the Shield people, and that was one of Steve Rogers' superpowers, basically. And I think that they were giving Falcon that moment, and I thought that Anthony Mackie did a really good job with it. That's a tough thing to carry, and I think that it can come across as cheesy or corny, and that's one of the real gifts that Chris Evans had, was to make it work without being cheesy or corny. And I think Mackie acquitted himself well here. I thought it was a good speech, even if, realistically, these guys are just going to blow that off.
Yeah, I think that I agree. It went on a long time. It felt a little bit weirdly preachy, and it didn't seem, I don't know, like, they have the GRC guy, right? But it didn't seem like there was an appropriate foe for him to direct this monologuing to, for me, to the point where it just felt like it was delivering it to us, the screen, to the audience, which kind of undercut it or took me out of the moment. I think that this isn't anything that's a reflection on Anthony Mackie and how he did it. It was weird, the contrivance of how they wanted to cram in this messaging at the end. And everyone, we need to be better about how we consider our neighbors.
So here's the thing. I
Those
think
are, you know.
I think, and some of our commenters talked about how it's a federal after school special, but I think that's the thing is like, it's the comic book versus movie and TV thing. In a comic book, this kind of speech makes perfect sense, and it's a little bit larger than life. And yeah, it is a little after school special. But when you have given a little more realistic shading, and like you say, they're not talking to one guy, like they didn't cartoon up the bad guys. The bad guys, the GRC, were given a little bit of nuance, and so it didn't feel as satisfying as if he was like talking to the Red Skull or someone who had been like, if he had somehow given the speech to Walker, who had been portrayed almost as a cartoonish bad guy, it almost would have worked better, although he wasn't the guy in the power to hear it. So I get where it seemed a little off key, but for me as a longtime comics reader, this was the Captain America moment. It was him being not just Falcon Cap, but Cap, and I thought that was a good thing to put in there.
Rich Murphy says, given that this was all written pre-pandemic, there was no way the writers could have been prepared for the weight audiences today after 2020 were going to hold it to.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think that's interesting to consider, but I don't know. I there are ways to give an appropriate foe for pontificating, and I think that that's just the area that it didn't feel like it captured the appropriate amount of weight that I was expecting it to.
You wanted a Gary Shandling type evil senator.
Yeah, someone that you want to punch in the face. And this guy, it seemed like he was, he's just trying to do the job.
I think to some extent it may be that they didn't give that senator enough, because they definitely were trying to, he's the guy who basically took the shield and gave it to Walker. We're supposed to hate that guy. We're supposed to see him as this bureaucrat who doesn't care about people. But yeah, I think because of how cartoonishly evil politicians have been in the last few years, the notion of a sort of realistically just kind of craven politician didn't seem villainous enough. I think that's probably where they fell down.
Yeah, that's old to us.
I don't think they even gave that. I mean, you're right. That guy's in all those committee hearings. He's all over the series. I don't even know what his name is.
Yeah.
Other than Senator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this guy right here. John Walker comes back. I missed. Apparently, there was an after credits scene in episode 5. Did you guys see this?
Yes, where he was building his shield.
Okay, that's what he's doing. He was putting the shield together.
He's building his janky ass shield.
And it falls right apart.
It does. It does.
He went to Hobby Lobby. He tried to put some.
Would you expect this guy to be able to build a decent shield? No.
But I thought there was something interesting in how they handled a degree of a redemption arc for this guy, because it could have been him coming in here and him messing things up more, but instead it came across as he still recognized that he is a person who has abilities, who isn't going to sit on the sidelines when there's something awful going on. And we last left him where he's a product of PTSD. Honestly, this guy is traumatized, and he took that out in murdering someone on TV who was the enemy and who he was trained to kill the enemy, right? So he got kind of hung out to dry for that. And yet him coming back here, I thought that this was handled in a way that I didn't hate personally. I can understand other people not liking it. What do you guys think?
I think several of our commenters have made the point that I kind of agree with. That basically, Rich Murphy said, I like they developed more, but I got whiplash from his turn. And then Ilon said, I think they set him up too hard to be hated for this redemption to hit. And I think that's true. I think that we were being set up, and maybe they may have just misjudged the audience, because the audience hated this guy from minute one. And I think that they tried to give him some nuance. I think Wyatt Russell did a fantastic job, but I think everyone hated him from the outset, and there was no coming back from that. And so when he shows back up, they have shown him a bloody shield. They had him do this big knockdown drag out with Falcon and with Winter Soldier. And so for him to come up in the middle of this, even in the midst of a crisis thing, and they're just like, yeah, okay, you're with us now. It did feel a little weird of wait a minute, you guys are cool with this? I would have some kind of nod of we don't have time to deal with you right now. Whatever, just stay out of the way. I would have liked them to mirror what he did to them in the beginning when he's just stay out of our way. If they had said that to him, They're like, yeah, fine, just stay out of the way. I would have liked that as a flip of like, we don't have time to fight him right now, and that's we're gonna let him do his thing, but we don't want him here.
I don't know. I mean, we've seen plenty of tension between heroes, quote unquote, in the MCU who work together, then don't work together, and then when crisis hits, they come back together again. I mean, a lot of that is in Infinity War and Endgame as well.
Sure.
So I think that him being there is kind of clutch and makes sense for the character and his sense of duty and honor. And I think I it's a delicate tightrope that they were trying to walk here between examining what it is to be a soldier, dedicated to your country, and then just kind of be tossed aside when you still kind of when the training you're given, goes awry. And it, I don't know, I
I
think it's
thought
heavy and complicated, and the fact that he came back and did this and wasn't praised but wasn't scorned either
mhm.
kind of spoke a little bit to the complexity of the situation, and in part I kind of appreciated it.
I think in episode 5, one of the things I thought was one of the best moments is when they're dressing him down and they're removing him from duty, and they basically like they strip him of his rank and they strip him of his retirement benefits. And I was like, whoa, that's too far. Like, you guys gave him this job, you didn't give him a lot of extra training, you expect him to do this really hard job, and then when he screws up in a way that like Valentina totally nails, she's like, nobody's mad that you killed the guy, they're mad that you killed the guy on television. They're mad you killed the guy. So like to basically then strip him of those duties and strip him of his retirement benefits, it felt to me like that was a commentary on how we treat our troops. Like, we send them in these things, and then when they come back, we do not take care of them. And I thought that was a good way to give a little sympathy of like, yeah, no matter how much you might head John Walker, you might think this guy should never have been Cap, that he's whatever your problems you have them. I don't think anybody's like, yeah, and he shouldn't have health insurance anymore. I think that's probably a bit too far.
Yeah, I think Kern's got a good point here too. Not really how well it sells in this climate about police brutality concerns to redeem Walker so quickly after killing that guy publicly. And
That is true.
that's another fair point. I mean, like I said, it's complex. You went after a guy who was part of a group that just blew up a building, that they kidnapped hogtied people, like soldiers, or guards that have kids and families and all that, and then blew up the building. And then this guy kills that person on television brutally, but it's not like the other guy was also great.
Yeah.
all these people, it's all bad. It's what it
Yeah,
kind of sounds like.
I think what I would have liked to have seen is some kind of moment where Falcon and Winter Soldier seemed overwhelmed, and he shows up to help them in a moment when they needed him, and give him a bit of redemption of like, he didn't need to be there, he showed up and he helped them, as opposed to just showing up for vengeance. I think if they had done one little thing of just not make him the guy who like saves them, but who like gives them an advantage in a moment that they need it, I think that would have done a good job of redeeming him, and then have them say, we're going to talk about this. I would have liked after the battle for him, instead of me standing around with them, I would have liked if he just disappeared. The next we see is Val giving him the U.S. agent costume. I think having him be at all cool with Winter Soldier and Captain America was wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel, I mean, to me, the way I interpreted it is that he did come there for vengeance, because he just comes out, he's yelling, Carly Morgenthau,
Yeah.
And it's like the mist fades from his eyes when he's like realizing that he could keep fighting the Flag Smashers or save these people, right? And it's like you contrast that with what Bucky did earlier, where it's like immediate, oh, I'm going to go save those people.
Yeah.
And then he really has to like struggle to get to that. I don't know. I mean, I definitely like, I felt like it was like too soon for Bucky to be like, oh, banter, quoting Lincoln,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but he does show that kind of that tick. Wyatt Russell incorporates this kind of tick of like this mental struggle that's going on with this guy, that he is a little bit unhinged, but he does, in the moment, do the more heroic thing where he goes to stop and like use his body to try and pull that entire truck back from toppling over the edge of whatever crazy infrastructure thing that
Yeah.
sometimes they just make these like scenes that are
Yeah.
wacky.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
What is happening here?
when they chase him underground through these like sewer tunnels to have this like final confrontation,
Yeah.
and there's just all these bags and pipes going to nowhere, and everything is really pretty and like with how it's lit with these different color lights. I was like, what is this space?
Let the set designers do their work, Grant. They get so little appreciation.
Well, yeah, we see that Walker becomes a U.S. agent here, and can you tell us a little bit about Val here?
Notorious JLD coming in for a amazing cameo. Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine, or Val, as she's to be called in your head, but never out loud. She is Nick Fury's girlfriend from the very early days of S.H.I.E.L.D. She is like I want to say Italian, like Contessa, and she is kind of a badass lady spy. They had a relationship for a long time. And then in the comics of late, there was a writer named Jonathan Hickman who did a book called Secret Warriors that involved S.H.I.E.L.D. And Valentina is set up to be Madam Hydra. It's revealed that she's Hydra and she's a bad guy. I hope they're not going that way. I hope that she's going to be a little more gray as far as like her morality. I think I want her to be a spy master like Nick Fury, but I don't know who she's working for. I don't know if she's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if she's working for S.W.O.R.D. I don't know who she actually works for.
It kind of feels like she's doing recruiting akin to Nick Fury when he was picking up all the people to make the Avengers.
Yeah.
She's kind of making her own Suicide Squad kind of team, or like Underground Thunderbolts kind of team, right?
Yeah, so if they're doing Thunderbolts, and she's had no involvement in the comics with Thunderbolts, but I'd be totally okay with that. If they're gonna do a Thunderbolts where basically in the comics, Thunderbolts started out as Baron Zemo's team that was basically supervillains pretending to be heroes so that they could get in good and then reveal their villainous agenda. But then it became sort of a Suicide Squad knockoff. If they decide to just go straight to the Suicide Squad bit and it's Valentina recruiting and she brings in Zemo and US Agent, I'd be super happy about this. My wacky will never happen theory. There is a Thunderbolt called Mach 1 who basically has like a jet. It's basically like a jet suit of armor. And in the comics, he is the Beetle, a Spider-Man foe who we've never seen in the movies and the TV. I want them to recruit Michael Keaton's Vulture out of prison to become the Mach 1 for the Thunderbolts.
Oh man,
I don't think they will, but I would love that.
We got a comment from our buddy John Rubio.
Yep.
Who says Walker's a lot like Winter Soldier in so much as they're both victims of their own brands of programming and abuse. So I understand Bucky having some sympathy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I think I wish they'd hit a little harder on is that the one thing that US Agent has in common with Steve Rogers is that never say die, never quit thing. Like if they had shown him just getting the crap kicked out of him by the various Flag Smashers, and just that he kept getting up, that could have gone a long way toward giving a redemption. Like that he wasn't just here for vengeance, that he is not going to quit.
Yeah. I mean, I agree there. That could have really helped sell that moment a bit better.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and put this back up on screen real quick. Look at those two, just smooching on the boat. That's where this
it's very sweet. By the way, since we didn't talk about 5, the boat stuff with Bucky and Sam, working together to put the boat together. That was some of my favorite stuff in the show. That goes right to what this show does that you can't do in a movie, is like spend some time in New Orleans with Sam and his family and all the people who loved his family and rebuilding a boat. You would never have time for that in a movie.
I mean, this is like what you were saying, Mark, about, or Will, about how you wanted to have a second season of this show, right? And there is so much to like richly explore there. So it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't get that. That said, those moments were really touching. Seeing everyone out on the boat, seeing this kind of that community, that family that was going on there. I also really appreciate that they did give resolution to Bucky, and that he did kind of go through and cross off on his list, addressing his past and trying to heal and make himself better. Thought that resonated a lot with me, and I thought that the performance by whoever plays Bucky Barnes here, Luke Skywalker, was great.
Sebastian Stan, sir.
Sebastian Stan, and then him rolling into the party with a cake and like
Love it, love it.
the kids and everything, and
Yep.
just like being with all of them, and it was beautiful. It's a beautiful moment.
I love how they humanized Winter Soldier here at the end. The bit in 5 where he's like, "Oh yeah, I sometimes forget to use the arm. I'm right-handed." That just a nice little bit of like, he is not just a super soldier assassin. This is the guy who dragged Steve Rogers to a double date at the World's Fair. Like he was like a fun-loving guy who became this like brute assassin. There is a fun guy inside that super soldier suit, and I'm glad they let a little bit of that peek through, especially him flirting with Sarah. Like that was delightful.
Will Morris says the bit with the guy whose son Winter Soldier killed was criminally rushed.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry,
I definitely wanted to hear more. What happened next, and then you just see him like watching the guy creepily through the restaurant window. I would have liked more, but I also feel like that'd be so hard to write, because I mean, what could you imagine being in that scenario? Like, what would you even say? I feel like anything they could write wouldn't live up to whatever is like, I'm going to imagine in my head.
I agree. That's what I was going to say. It's like, I don't disagree with Will Morris that it basically it's rushed, but I don't know what would have been satisfying. And I think that probably you have to leave that to the imagination a little bit.
Ultimately, they established the point that, in the beginning of this series, he was very lost, very alone, and adrift at sea with his heavy emotions of the pain that he had caused, right? Not intentionally, not against his will, but he was able to go through and cross off all the names on that list and give that to his therapist to show that he had some growth, and he's able to find some sort of sense of place. And I think that was really sold with this scene where he's with Sam and his sister and her kids, and he has a place, and he has family, and he has people who care about him and he cares about, and
it's all about family. And this is and then Dom shows up and recruits them to join the Fast and the Furious, right?
Perfect. That's all we need. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Let's talk about a little bit about Isaiah Bradley as well, because we mentioned it a little bit before, but he got his statue dedication.
So before we talk about, I think Idleness makes a good point. We should talk about from episode 5, because I think so he mentions that in episode 5 it's a little weird that Sam and Bucky are casually throwing the shield, and then during the training montage Sam can't catch shit. I actually don't think that's weird editing. I think that Sam and Bucky are having a catch. Like, it is basically just like when you're throwing a baseball around. It's a lot easier. They're just bouncing it off, and they're just bouncing it back and forth. It's not coming in at super fast speeds. They're just bouncing it. When the training montage is going on, Sam is trying to learn how to catch it in combat. He's doing like flips and shit, and he's basically trying to he's working a little harder for himself. So I don't think it's like he suddenly lost the ability to catch. I think it's that he's also throwing in all the acrobatics and all that kind of thing. And I think it was deliberate. I think they were showing that the baseline skills of like bouncing the shield is something that they both had learned, but that the doing it as a hero was a different thing, and they wanted to give him that montage.
You know what I was missing? What happened to the cool Stark button that he could click on his glove or whatever, and the shield would come right back onto his forearm?
Okay, I am glad you mentioned that. I don't like that. It's in an Age of Ultron and nowhere else, and it felt weird. It felt like Tony gadgeting up everybody, and I'm like, Cap doesn't need that gadget. Cap kicks the shield and kicks it up into his hand. He has a cool move to bring it up. He doesn't need no magnets. He's not Jesse Pinkman.
I like the magnets. I don't know. It's a little silly. And then I was like, oh, where'd that go? That seems so convenient that he could just be like, zoop. It was like Mjolnir, where he could just put his hand out and get it. And I thought it was cool.
Can I admit that I was a little sad? I'm not surprised, given there was so much was going on in this episode. I was really hoping Joaquin was going to show up in the Falcon suit.
Oh
yeah,
especially
me too.
He's like, yeah, you go ahead and hold on to the wings because
Cap 4, I guess. We'll see it in Cap 4.
Yeah, but this character was great. The actor was fantastic, easily likable, and a good right hand man as well. A good sidekick that I guess eventually turns half into an actual Falcon.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think they're gonna go that way.
But do you think that he got that from Sam and he's like, you know what,
I think they're gonna War Machine the thing. I think he and the Air Force are gonna take this old Stark tech and turn it into something he can wear. Yeah,
because he seemed to kind of know how to fix it in the first episode too. So it seems like he's already familiar with how it all works.
G Miller says, I grade this episode 3.5 out of 5 magnets.
Okay.
Not enough magnets.
But how do they work though?
Yes. Only the juggalos know that. There was we also got a little brief snippet of the raft and that Zemo's just kind of kicking in the raft. I was also kind of surprised that the Wakandans got a hold of Zemo, and rather than keeping him in their own prison where they can keep tabs on him, they relinquished him to the raft. Because who's overseeing the raft?
I was surprised at that too, and that's what makes me think maybe they are setting up a Thunderbolts, because it made no sense. I was like, the Wakandans seemed like they would just hold him. Like, it did not seem like they would give him over to the raft.
Yeah, already, like, he was in German prison, which we all know is like basically hanging out in IKEA or something.
No, Swedish prison.
They're close.
So, the raft seems. He's got a radio. He's able to listen to the news. It doesn't seem like the worst.
It's not the worst.
It's just hard to escape, I suppose.
Did we ever hear that? Because that was mentioned by the Wakandans. I had not remembered that from anything else. Is that something mentioned in a previous MCU installment?
The
raft.
The raft is in Civil War.
Okay, that's where they are when they're imprisoned.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's where Steve Rogers breaks them all out of.
Gotcha.
And then doesn't go looking for Sharon. Oh,
so we were talking about Isaiah Bradley.
Yes. Yeah.
And his dedication scene. He's got his own little section tucked around the corner of the Captain America Museum. He's got a statue with some haunting eyes, I think. Eyes look a little bit severe, but otherwise, it was this kind of touching moment where Sam brings him in there and shows him like, you aren't forgotten, and someone got a good shot where you can actually read about the history of him and the other people. It would be kind of nice if the other soldiers, I guess.
Wait. Well, I'm just looking at this.
Yeah, I didn't see this.
They can actually see. So no, but the important thing is, it says on here, some individuals in the government tried to erase Isaiah's story from history. His family was issued a falsified death certificate, and for decades, the truth of his like, did they reveal he's alive? He didn't want that.
They just
Randy, everything.
They just sprung it on him in the museum. Like, you walk around the corner, and like, oh, there's a statue, and here's everything you told me not to do.
That just overturns everything you said earlier about how this scene is like good.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for. Oh, you listed my address on there.
Why is my social security number on this monument? That doesn't make any sense.
Why would you do all this?
All my credit card numbers are here. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
He just got it 3D printed by the Wakandans. He's like, yeah, while you're building the suit, can you make this really detailed thing for Isaiah Bradley?
He'll love it.
He'll sure. love it.
Yeah, it'll be great. Isaiah's like, the fuck, dude. When he's hugging him there, he's actually trying to choke him out. He's going, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, that's not a hug. He's doing a Hail Hydra thing. He's just whispering to him all the things. Look, I'm a super soldier. You're not. You're a dead man.
You are a dead man. Why would you do this to me? Yeah. That's funny because I guess I hadn't read the whole thing either. I got the image.
Yeah, I hadn't read it till you put it up on the screen. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought surely that he had done anything of like the story, the official story that he was experimented on and that he had died, basically maintaining the fiction that he wanted, but giving him a little bit of the recognition that he also deserved. No, he's like straight up like, no, he falsified his death. Look, here he is. Wave to the guy who didn't want to be seen, folks.
There was one other little moment, relatively insignificant, but there was this this woman on the helicopter that
Mhm.
Sam identifies as being able to fly a helicopter, and for some reason it was touching to me. This like, hey, this coordination, we gotta work through this. You gotta step up, be brave, and we're gonna do a countdown. Threw the shield in, blocked it, and she jumps in and kind of saves the day.
Mhm.
Everyone else, and I don't know, that scene, like how it was edited, how tight it was, the timing and the execution, and just everything, how it played out visually, it worked for me a lot.
I loved it, and also this is another thing that Cap does. Cap is supposed to be someone who not only he serves as an example, but he lets other people be their best selves.
Yeah, it, like, brings out the hero and other
Yeah,
people.
yeah, and I thought that was great.
Yeah.
It also kind of called back to what was going on in the first episode, and you could kind of contrast that fight scene with this one and see how much things have changed for Sam. And I thought it was good to like kind of think about that while you're watching this.
How he's grown. Yeah.
Mhm.
So on that note, we should talk about what overall we thought of this season, I guess then. Not just this episode. What did we think overall of how they took the story of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and elaborated on these characters, their arcs, and what goes on with them behind the scenes between movies? Will, what did you think?
I thought it was good. I came in with low expectations. I liked, like I said, I'm a bigger fan of the cosmic, alien, magic kind of stuff, and so I wasn't necessarily expecting to like this, but I liked it. I think that, like Randy was saying, it could have had kind of a stronger villain outside of the Flag Smashers that kind of represented the state or the GRC or whatever. But
Oh, right. We didn't really even talk about Power Broker and what a throwaway I'm an evil mustachy villain, but I'm gonna get away with it and I'll see you in the movie or whatever that was.
Yeah,
That was.
yeah. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was good, and it made me pumped about Captain America 4.
Randy, what are you feeling?
I liked this better than WandaVision. Which I loved WandaVision, but I thought this was better. For me, this is right up my alley. The Captain America comics where John Walker comes in and takes over as Cap is some of my earliest comics reading. Like that was like stuff I was reading as a teenager, and so I have a huge nostalgic attachment to it. And so to see Battlestar and John Walker and Flag Smashers and Zemo and all these guys brought to life in this way, plus the fact that the Captain America movies and the Avengers movies are my favorite of the MCU, this was like made directly for me. And I think that they did a great job. For all that I have some gripes about, yeah, it felt a little rushed in some places. I do think that you can definitely see the seams of this was supposed to be a different plot, and then they changed some stuff, and also probably that COVID filming probably made some things difficult. I think they did a really good job, and I think this is it stands up alongside the movies. I think our buddy Les from TV Dudes mentioned when we were talking about WandaVision, he's like, they finally made a TV show that you can put in your rankings of like, what's my favorite Marvel movies. And I think the same is true of Falcon Winter Soldier. You can put that in like, where does this rank in the Marvel movies? And it's not going to be dead last below everything else, but still just above Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's definitely above Thor 2. Definitely putting it above Thor 2. Yeah, I think that we can't help but also kind of compare this to WandaVision and look at what each of those was like looking to accomplish. WandaVision was brilliant and multi-layered, just very textured top down for me, and there was such wild abundant creativity that was going into all these different facets of what that show was doing. But at the end of the series, I felt it really dropped the ball. Like, it was a
Hmm.
very disappointing finale to an
Hmm.
otherwise brilliant show, and that undercut it in a way where this one feels pretty pretty strong all the way through. And
Hmm.
what they set out to do has also a very profound message. There's so much more maturity that we're seeing in the MCU in what they're kind of tackling in both, mental health issues and grieving and loss in WandaVision, as well as um, race and nationalism and what it means to be um, a person proud of your country versus proud of your humanity, and
Hmm.
how we kind of divide ourselves by borders when we're all just kind of people. There's a lot of really heavy complex content that they're taking some big swings at talking about. They're talking about police brutality and divisions in our country that have been long-standing and avoided for quite some time. It's impressive that they are making those moves, and let's just remember all the dumb shit that Justice League did.
Look,
In
I'm
con-
looking. I'm looking at our comments, by the way,
yeah,
and I just want to say I feel a little bit like Falcon when he found out that Bucky didn't love Trouble Man. There's some people in here legitimately saying that Agents of Shield is a better finale or is somehow better than this, and you people are crazy.
that's dead.
But I will say this: Nicole said that it's basically. She said it's not better than Wanda, or it's not as sophisticated as WandaVision.
Mm,
Uh, and she's out of line, but she's right.
yeah.
To quote Zemo, I just for me this league's better because it's a genre like the action adventure genre. It's characters that I happen to love more. But if I'm being 100% honest and just objective, yeah, WandaVision is probably a little bit more ambitious. It also had 9 hours or 9.5 hours as opposed to 6 or whatever. It's the more time, I think. But um, but for me, I will rewatch Falcon and Winter Soldier more than I will rewatch WandaVision, which doesn't
You're,
necessarily make one better than the other. It's just
no,
what your speed is.
you're definitely in the tank for this style of
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
of storytelling. Will Morris says, "I think your buddy Les is smoking," and I would just
That's
say,
neither here nor there.
let's say no joke. We have a couple other thoughts from the audience here. G Miller says the show had some missteps, but the great character building for Sam and Bucky makes the whole thing work.
I agree with that.
Will Morris says, "I like the show, but it's impossible for a show to be great in 6 episodes." Tell that to the British Office.
What about? I mean, but a movie's great in an hour and a half. So I don't know. I feel like it's possible.
Yeah, it's plenty.
I don't think they reached great. But I think it could have been there.
Compton Animator says, "I love the season overall and how they use both Sam and Bucky. Also, how great Walker was. The final episode didn't stick the landing, but it was still good."
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's not the perfect landing that I want, but let's acknowledge endings are hard. Like half the movies don't get a good ending either. Like it's
Right.
really difficult.
Idlone says, "I think the message of the show is better than the overall execution. Probably would never rewatch." And
I am shocked
puts
and
a dagger
horrified.
into Randy's side.
I am shocked. Like I'm already planning to get some friends together at a theater this summer in safety in safe ways to watch this on a screen because I'm so excited about it.
Rubio says, "I hope they lean in for more 6-episode seasons."
I'm good with the lean 6 episode. I'm all about the shorter seasons.
Kern says, "I was surprised how much the series touched on current political events. They managed to successfully meld it with massive Marvel action scenes. Let's keep it up."
Yeah. Oh, I did want to say, do you guys think that the actions, well, the action throughout this was good. I don't think they ever topped the chopper chase that opens the first episode. I don't think they have any action scenes that are as good as that first episode.
I thought that actually the fight sequence between Bucky, John Walker, and Sam was really sloppy. It was like
I did too.
Like really tightly filmed and like kind of hard to follow what was going on. And similarly, a lot of the the punching sequences in this final episode didn't really it didn't flow as smoothly as like, oh man, it was like really fun, and I felt like I was on like some Disney ride in
Yeah.
the first episode.
I think when you have Sam in the air, that's when it's at its best. When he was chasing down the chopper and using the shield and all, and that like that was close, but I still didn't think it was quite as good as the extended chase in the first episode.
I thought those scenes in this episode I enjoyed more than the first episode, but it just wasn't focused enough. If you'd like focused on that, but I was like, okay, what's happening with the vans? What's happening with the helicopter?
Yeah.
Your head's all over the place.
Yeah.
That Psycho reviewer says, hopefully Captain America 4 has a better Sam Wilson fight scene, because to be honest, his flying and shield throwing was great, but I wasn't really into the hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Yep.
Yeah. I got one last question for you both. If there was a person to give a voice to Sam's new suit, who would you like to be the voice actor talking to him?
Morgan Freeman.
You want Morgan Freeman to be his?
Sure. Why not?
This is Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Red Wing.
Now
I can obviously do it, Morgan Freeman, because that was awful.
That was off the top of my head. I don't actually know, but that's my top of the head's guess. Yes.
My vote would be for Snarf from Thundercats.
That's Red Wing. Oh man. I think just make it awful. It's like Fran Drescher or
Gilbert Gottfried.
Kathy.
Falcon, we're running out of power.
It's like, stop it, Red Wing. How do I turn this off? Oh, Wakandan handbook. I can't.
Nicole Jackson nailed it.
Viola Davis would.
Viola Davis. Yeah, 100%.
We got suggestions for Idris Elba. I want Idris Elba just annoyed and tired all the time of him.
The Idris Elba from Suicide Squad. You want his like just bone tired.
God damn it, Sam! How many times do I have to explain this to you?
For fuck's sake.
That'd be great.
There's another great suggestion. Yeah.
Takako says husband wants John Oliver to be the voice. Yes.
Amazing.
That reminds me of you guys ever play Portal 2? Wheatley. Who's that actor? Also from The Office. Not Ricky Gervais, but his friend, the tall gangly guy.
God, why am I not? I'm blanking on his name.
His name.
Stephen Merchant. Stephen Merchant
Would be delightful.
Dennis McElwain says Keith David. That'd be fantastic.
Rubio says Andy Milonakis.
I don't know who that is.
It's like,
is he the prime minister of Yugoslavia? I don't know who that is.
Stephen Merchant. There we go. Hugh Grant. We got.
But it's got to be the sloppy, drunken Hugh Grant from The Gentleman. It's got to.
All right. Well, I think on that note, we got a bunch of good suggestions there. Final thoughts? You guys have any final thoughts on this?
Can't wait for Captain America 4.
Yeah, that was exciting that they didn't even wait a week. They were just like, hey, that episode's out. Captain America 4 is coming.
Yep.
Too late. Spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't watched the episode in the first 3 hours that it was out.
And I'm looking forward to more Disney Plus Marvel shows. I think this is a good format.
Yeah, excited for Loki.
And excited to have you guys back for more MCU chat, and as long as you're open to it. Thanks everyone for crickets. You both are like, nah, I'm done. I'm coming back on your show, Grant. Thank you guys so much for joining the podcast this week. Remember, you can follow us on youtube.com/MCU Pod when we go live. You can also follow us over on Twitter at MCU Pod. We're on Instagram at MCU Pod. And we'd love you guys to keep up with us, because next week, I don't know, we obviously don't have a TV show that we're going to be talking about, but we'll probably just try and find some other topic to talk about. We could talk about some of the upcoming movies, the slate that we are anticipating, or picking some characters to kind of deep dive in and just discuss more of the MCU, because there's plenty to talk about there. As I'm sure if you go check out New Rockstars or whoever, you'll see a bunch. We're just going to crib whatever they're doing. we also have Loki right around the corner. I think June 11th is the debut date for that one, and that one looks awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
looking
super
forward to
excited.
that. By the way, Grant, I forgot to promote something important.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you did.
We just started up a new I restarted a comics podcast with my buddies Bo and Jason Murphy, and we're doing a monthly podcast that is tied to what is in the sort of comics pop culture. Our first episode is all themed around Falcon and Winter Soldier. So if you'd like to hear me and a couple guys who have been like reading comics for a long, long time talk about these characters in the comics, much more than about the show, you can go over to Loose Cannon Comics. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Stitcher. We're not on Apple yet because they're not taking new podcasts right now. You can also find us on Facebook and listen to that first podcast. We're gonna do a monthly. And if you're a patron of the MCU Pod, you got an early sneak peek at it.
We did. We put that up. Loose Cannon Comics. You know, I was scrambling. I was like, I don't know if I have a graphic for that, but I do actually.
No, goddamn it.
It's a beautiful tale of love. And we're getting recommendations from everyone that we should be talking about Shang-Chi and the new trailer that came out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that would be great. Also, a review of Thor 2. Thanks, Karen. I don't think
I haven't seen it. I gotta watch it.
No, don't do it.
I'm gonna watch it right now.
Look, as a completist, you got to. It's the same writer as Avengers Endgame. How bad could it be? The answer is bad. The answer is very bad. But it's still MCU, and you should watch it.
Well, we will be back next week, and we hope you guys will tune in to join with us. You can support us over on Patreon, where we will be doing all sorts of bonus content. You can join for $2, $5, or $10 a month, not a week, a month. So, you know, if you like buying a Starbucks coffee once a month, you could just take that one day a month and give it to us instead. That'd be awesome. It's a $10 coffee. That's a really expensive coffee.
One of those unicorn lattes or something.
Will, thank you. Yeah, so a unicorn frap. Will, thanks for joining us. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me. You can find me at hypercastle.com, or I'm William Cardini on Twitter and Instagram.
Excellent. Randy.
You can find me at thetvdudes.com. You can find me at roguesgallerytx.com. And you can find me at Loose Cannon Comics over on Facebook.
And you can find me at Baron Von Grant over on Twitter and on Instagram. I also do a craft beer podcast called The Beerist, which comes out every Monday. It's a lot of fun, a little bit raunchy humor, but if you are into beer, I think give it a shot. I also do a Star Trek podcast from time to time called Star Trek Pod, where we talk about, believe it or not, Star Trek.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And Mike, if he was here, he's running a Star Wars pod, which I've been popping on, called Star Wars Pod. So we're just doing everything with just the word pod after it, and making that our brand for now. Appreciate all of you guys. We will be back next week. Until then, I think G Miller came up with our sign out. So hopefully I got that right. MCU later.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Baby, don't hurt me.